Hey everyone, I know it's been a while since I've done some videos in general, but I figured I would do some Legacy online since it's it's viable to actually do Legacy online now. I'm going to be playing Oops All Spells. I top 8'd with the deck to start the games in Portland about a month ago. I've been playing it for quite a while. It's a pretty simple, straightforward deck. The fun part about it is that the deck plays no lands, 29 creatures. I actually didn't even know that until just now, but apparently it does. So the whole goal of the deck is to essentially get to 4 mana, and actually it's 1 black mana and then 3 colorless. And then you want to play either Undercity Informer or Balustrade Spy. And what they do is, when they come into play, or if you sacrifice an Undercity Informer, or when the Spy comes into play, you target a player, they reveal cards on top of their library until they reveal a land card. So essentially, you mill yourself, hopefully as soon as turn 1. And the point of that is because you will get 4 Narcomoeba triggers. And what you want to do is you want to Dread Return, flashback to Dread Return, an Angel of Glory's Rise. She brings all humans into play when she comes back, and you bring back a Zombie Lady of Scrolls and Laboratory Maniac, and then you tap a guy to draw a card and you win the game. It's pretty simple. It's very straightforward for the most part. Okay, for all the parts, it's very straightforward. But the deck does have some little weird, intricacies. It's got things like Cabal Therapies. Yeah, against an unknown opponent, especially if you won the die roll and you're going to go off on turn 1, you never just immediately go for the Dread Return kill. You always flashback a Cabal Therapy, sacking an Narcomoeba, which is also why the deck runs 1 Bridge from Below, because if it doesn't, then sometimes if you need to do like a double therapy or something crazy, sacking on your Narcomoebas, you don't have enough creatures to flashback the Dread Return. So you run 1 Bridge from Below to help compensate for that. So normally, you Cabal Therapy, and you always name Force of Will that turn 1, game 1, when you go for the kill. I mean, maybe they're not playing a deck with Force of Will, but it doesn't matter. That is literally the only card that beats you if they've gotten this far. Unless they main deck something like Surgical Extraction. But a lot of the times, I've noticed people will just scoop to you anyway, which is awesome, because, they don't understand what your deck does. They immediately think you're playing a Dredge deck, and so they see all your cards in your graveyard and like, oh my god, I lost to Dredge, turn 1. I'm just going to scoop. A lot of people don't understand that this is what the deck is meant to do. Let's see what else is there that's kind of interesting. We got Summoner's Pact in here, which finds your Spirit Guides, which is essentially Spirit Guides 5 through 7, a Tinderwall, and a Wild Cantor to help you easily make that black mana, because black mana is really the core of the deck. Trying to think if there's anything else crazy. Oh, Manamorphose. When you cast it, you pretty much always name black and green, because sometimes you draw a Tinderwall and need to slam a Tinderwall. But you'd almost always name black. Well, you always name black because, if you hit one of your rituals, you hit there. So you essentially play 8 win conditions in the main deck, 4 Undercity Informers, 4 of the Spies, and then you go from there. The deck is a lot of fun to play, I think. It's got an extremely high turn 1 win percentage. And yeah, that's the main deck. So going into games 2 and 3, especially if you're, say you win game 1 and your opponent scoops to your Cabal Therapy, you don't know what they're bringing in, or you don't even know what you're playing against, it's normally correct to bring in this package, because it's safe to assume that they're going to bring in some sort of graveyard hate, and you just don't want that. It's just something that you really don't want to deal with. So what you do is you essentially turn into a Goblin Charbelcher deck. Now it's not as I would say consistent as regular Belcher, but you do have that surprise factor, and that's what matters. When people bring in Leyline of the Voids and Tormod's Crypts or other things, and they start the game, I have pre-game effects, and they put a Leyline into play, and they feel like they just won the game, you're like, cool, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me anymore. There are some fun things. Oh, you have in 1 extra Tinderwall, just because you need the extra, mana, because you need to get to 7 mana now instead of 4. Thankfully, Lion's Eye Diamond makes 3 instantly, but there are a lot of fun things to do this version, because you also play Spoils of the Vault, which is a tutor. You name a card, you reveal cards until you reveal the named card, exile everything that you revealed that wasn't the named card, and then you lose 1 life for each card excuse me, that you revealed. So there are some, interesting things that you can do where you can go like Lion's Eye Diamond, Ritual, use 4 of it to play. Well, okay, no, not Lion's Eye Diamond, but you could say you go Ritual, so you have 5 mana. You play a Goblin Charbelcher, and then you Spoils of the Vault for Lion's Eye Diamond, and then you just hope to hit it. The deck is very all or nothing. You can't be scared when you play this deck. You have to understand that sometimes you're just going to lose to Force of Will. But the vast majority of the time, not a lot of the decks in the format seem to main deck 4 Force of Wills anymore. They seem to only play 3. So you're kind of rolling the dice there. You instant win versus a vast majority of the field. I feel like you do. You almost have essentially buys throughout most of your tournaments. Assuming you dodge a decent amount of the blue decks. I mean, even some of the blue decks you have a strong matchup versus. I mean, Reanimator is a blue deck that has Force of Will in there, but they don't have as many blue cards to pitch, so they're not always going to have it readily accessible. Your worst matchups, Rug Delver's pretty tough because of, Daze, Spell Pierces, Forces. Miracles is just one of the worst matchups. Miracles isn't fun. So those are 2 decks that you really don't want to see, but you can definitely fight through them, especially if they don't know what you're doing. And there are some instances also where, like I said, if you win game 2 and you go to this plan and you lose, almost if you didn't seal out a graveyard hit, you go back to your original combo because it's more consistent. What I tend to do a lot of the times, game 2, is I will actually put both combos in the deck, and it's only really doable whether or not you feel like they have counterspells. If they have counterspells, then you need to focus on this plan. If they don't, and you're just worried about the possibility of graveyard hate, things like Rest in Peace or Surgical Extraction or Ley Lines, you can have both combos in the deck. So what you do is you just shave numbers. As much as I don't like to, when you do this, you need to always keep the 4 Narcomoebas. You need to keep 1 Therapy. Cards that come out are sadly 4 Gitaxian Probes. As much as I don't like to cut those out, because you can see what your opponent has. The reason you do that is because if you need to Chrome Mox, say a Street Wraith, and they're essentially almost the same thing, it's better to Chrome Mox a Street Wraith because that's black mana to get you your Dark Rituals. But when you do this, you do some things. You cut your Gitaxian Probes. You cut like one Undercity Informer. You normally cut the Bridge from Below because it's a card you need to take out. You cut 1 Therapy. Let's see, that's 4, 5, 6. 1 Undercity Informer, 7, and then you bring in 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you got to cut like 5 more cards. Ugh, it just sucks. Sometimes you cut down a 2nd Undercity Informer, like 1 Summoner's Pact. I'll show you if I end up doing it. You shave down to certain cards. It makes your deck a little, not as resilient or not as consistent, but the fact that you're able to play both is even a more surprise factor. There are sometimes where people are going to be ready for that, and they'll say land, Pithing Needle turn 1 naming Goblin Charbelcher, and you're like, well, cool, I have Balustrade Spy or Understanding Informer, so I'm just going to win that way now. So the deck has a lot of different ways to go about it. The deck does mulligan into itself pretty hard, which is another reason why you have 2 Cabal Therapy. Sometimes you need a Therapy yourself and name one of your win conditions into the graveyard. But this deck is also very explosive. I've mulled to 5 many times and still won the game on turn 1. I've mulled to 4 a few times and still won the game on turn 1. You just go Lotus, Dark Ritual, Undercity Informer, Spirit Guide, win. And people are just like, wow, this is stupid. But not if you're us, because it's fun. So let's hop into some 2-mans, because 8-mans take too long to fire off. And we'll see if we can win some Masters packs.